How can there be garnishing order against them? $800 million US. How do you survive from it?
So when the APC government came about 8 years ago, they started couching this idea of, social welfare government and all of that. 3.5 billion to be borrowed from World Bank. Here we go again. If you read the mid-term expenditure framework, talks about the fact that we'll have to borrow about 26 trillion in the space of 3 years as a benchmark, to be able to meet most of our developmental prospects and encumbrances. Over the years, we've seen that what we use our loans for has been couched around corruption and ineffectiveness, and we don't see anything out of it.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Plan B TV News. A lot of us know the past administrations, President Muhammadu Buhari, and his political greed and selfishness, how he ridiculed Nigeria system. A lot of people thought that Tinubu, who remodelized Lagos, might have the chances of facing Nigeria. So that's why some people voted for him, why some snatched ballot box for him, why some rigged the election for him. But in none of this, I want you guys to see what is going on within his political office and what he's doing with his power.
Others as well. So the incidence of illegal mining is very, very pervasive, especially in the rural areas. And we've also traced incidents of banditry to the handiwork of illegal miners, especially foreign illegal miners.
President Muhammadu Buhari, during his 8 years in office, the only thing that we can be proud of that he did for Nigeria was he borrowed Nigeria into debt. He kept on borrowing. Even in the last minute of his office, the very month he was leaving office, he was still able to borrow $800,000 from the World Bank. Nigeria is known for debtor, and that have ridiculed our naira. So I'm not going to be talking about President Muhammadu Buhari because his time is over now. Now, let's talk about President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who just recently came into office. A lot of people were thinking like, okay, now that the evidence is there that Buhari embezzled money, borrowed Nigerian money to share, now President Muhammadu Buhari is gone and Tinubu came into power with a full chest and said, if he fixed Lagos, he can fix Nigeria. He came into office, he's not even probing anybody under the APC for the money they embezzled.
How can there be garnishing order against them? $800 million US. How do you survive from it? How? Who are those responsible for this? Who are those responsible for this? That a territory that no project, everything have abandoned, there's a guarantee of $800 million US. Do you know what they're talking about? How do you survive it?
Now, the debt pit that President Muhammadu Buhari dig during his tenure that wants to push Nigeria into it, Tinubu came, instead of him to rescue Nigeria and let's think of how to fill the hole, he pushed Nigeria into it. I want you guys to watch this particular video of Arise TV News on how they analyze the money your president is about to borrow and the one they borrowed before and what they're doing with the money they are borrowing.
It's another session of the Federal Executive Council meeting where several decisions were reached that touch upon crucial aspects of the Nigerian society.
Every year, we hope to be able to raise at least $5 billion within this fund. And this is from the different sectors. So we're going to have contribution from government, of course, from the private sector, development partners, individuals, philanthropic individuals, and other innovative form.
They were to do with concessional and in many cases zero interest financing by the World Bank and the International Development Association. And as you know, the tenure is upwards of, is all around 40 years, moratorium period around 10 years, and interest very low, or in the cases of the IDA loans, zero interest, although some fees would occur.
This time around, we are injecting a large dose of technology. Yes, we have a very vast land area and porous borders as well. So the incidence of illegal mining is very, very pervasive, especially in the rural areas. And we've also traced incidents of banditry to the handiwork of illegal miners, especially foreign illegal miners.
Furthermore, the Council ratified the Protocol for the Protection of Older Persons in the country, aligning with the African Charter to safeguard the rights and dignity of older individuals and protect them from discrimination. Adesua Omoruan, Arise.
The FEC meeting, 3.5 billion to be borrowed from World Bank. Here we go again. If you read the mid-term expenditure framework, talks about the fact that we'll have to borrow about 26 trillion in the space of 3 years as a benchmark, to be able to meet most of our developmental prospects and encumbrances. And this money being borrowed, even if, as Mr. Finance Minister Wale said, some of them are concessionary 40 years and all of that, it's still a loan you have to pay back. But the question is, it's not that loans are bad, but what do you use them for? Over the years, we've seen that what we use our loans for has been couched around corruption and ineffectiveness, and we don't see anything out of it. So when the APC government came about 8 years ago, they started couching this idea of, social welfare government and all of that. But the question is, when you take the empirical stats, has it worked? What happened to the school feeding program? What happened to the trader money? What happened to the market money? How did those things move the needle as regards bringing people out of poverty? I think what the government should focus on, yes, you can also couch an argument around social interventions, but the government should focus predominantly on boosting the economy. Because if the economy grows, then you can have all-round GDP growth and you can create more job money feeds back into the system. And also the social intervention should be tied around timelines, so we don't copy things in full. The likes of Bolsa Familias of this world in Brazil that you copy, they tie it around timelines. Okay, if your child goes to school, you get this money. All right. They know that at some point it will terminate because your child will have gotten an education and will go into the employment market. But if the children get out of school, what employment market are they going to? So that's the conversation we need to have. And they said they're going to have a governance board, for this new 5 billion trust fund. I just hope the governance board does things effectively. But I also want to talk about the NASG. A lot of promises were made that are not feasible. I'll give you one. This talk about Nigeria $1 trillion economy by 2026, to me, it's not feasible. And I'll give you empirical calculations. Today, Nigeria is 395 billion GDP. Hypothetically, it's not possible. Nigeria will not grow 20%. Hypothetically, if Nigeria grows 20%, what will happen is that you add 79 billion to the GDP. Iterate 79 billion by 20% constant growth for the next 3 years. It will give you 237 billion. 237 billion plus the 395 billion we have today. We just give you a little over 600 billion, maybe 637 billion. So that's how well we can grow. So this idea of 1 trillion, I just think is another political poetry. 1 trillion GDP 2026. I think the government too should also tell people the realistic expectations. This 10 billion too that they said will be coming in for capital injection, where will the money be coming in from? Is it also part of the Afrexim 3.5 billion that we don't know about? So, and when the money comes in, we plunge into the Forex market. So what happens next after all of this? Because we have built a culture where we have over-dependence on the dollar, but we forget that we don't print the dollar in this country. So when we plunge that into the foreign exchange market, what happens next afterwards? Where are we going to get more liquidity? Or is it going to drive liquidity? Our argument for floating the currency in the first place was because we wanted liquidity. Yeah. So we wanted to open up our economy in such a way that foreign investors will come and put liquidity in. But they have not put liquidity in because there still some constraints. So it's time for us to sort out the bureaucratic bottlenecks and the hitherto cultural problem, the legacy problems, and be able to free our economy. So the government should be realistic with what it can do to the people, and let's help build this economy.
All right. Well, very quickly, the $10 billion loan we talked about, according to BISI had done research on it, and it's meant to be sourced from two sources. One is from a facility, forward sales by the NNPC, which could yield $7 billion, and the rest, the balance of that, the $3 billion, would come in from Qatar, which would give a soft loan with no strings attached, according to what has been, what has been said. So 2 ways they're hoping to get that $10 billion to pump into the economy so that it could potentially resolve this FX crisis that this government finds and Nigerians find on their hands. Now, I'll just speak on one other aspect of what the president said yesterday at the NSG and some questions. Talking about being realistic, especially when it comes to promises, we must realize that this is no longer campaign season. It's now the business of governance, and therefore Nigerians ought, we need to have realistic, smart promises being made. By smart, obviously specific, measurable, and the likes, time-bound. Now, he also talked about the fact that they would roll out the student loan come January. That's one of the things he touched on yesterday when he addressed the summit. And a few questions around that, because the Higher Education Act of 2023 makes a provision for the setting up or the establishment of an education bank. That hasn't been done yet. Also, on research, you would find out that the modalities, the processes as stipulated by law in that act have not yet been put in place. So it is quite, it's difficult to see how that would work out in the next 2 months in order to roll out the student loan promised by the president to begin in January. Maybe we'll get more clarity on that when he, from a statement from his spokespeople. But just to address that if we are to have the loans, because he acknowledged the hardship of students following hikes, in student fees across some institutions in Nigeria, and the fact that he had promised on assumption of office that there would be student loan. Now, away from that, still talking about his efforts, this government's efforts to address the needs of the most vulnerable in Nigeria, the Minister for Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Dr. Betta Edu, as you saw in that video earlier, had addressed or given a statement on what had ensued during the FEC meeting. Now, this is quite important because this administration has shown its commitment to addressing the needs of, to alleviating poverty. Hence the reason for, this attention on the ministry and the fact that they were looking to have an annual $5 billion fund. This isn't the first time this has been announced. If you recall, in September, on the sidelines of ONGA, she had made this announcement that this funding would come from 30% would come from the government, 70% would come from other sources. These sources include private investment and also some development agencies, giving to that. Again, the taste of the pudding is in the eating. They've given quite a broad view as to how this will be managed. But perhaps in order to avoid practices, let me put it that way, of the past, where we didn't see as much the evidence of the beneficiaries or how the monies were spent, we need to have tighter system structures when it comes to trust funds like this. It is impressive, it is good that this government is thinking ahead in terms of how to ensure that those who are most vulnerable, at risk of being affected by flooding and other crises, will be attended to. But it's important, very important, to ensure that they get the structure right. And perhaps in the next few days, that's what we'll be hoping to hear from the ministry as to how this will be implemented. Let's not forget they've begun to disburse the 25,000 naira, at least meant to start this month up until the next year. That's also still on ground. How is that being disbursed? There was news about the fact that you must have a bank account, NIN and the likes, which is great, because we must be able to trace how much was being spent, who are the beneficiaries, and how well this impact is in terms of meeting the needs of the underserved in Nigeria. So current state of the economy almost deserves meetings twice a week. But I believe that even if they don't have a FEC meeting every week, the individual ministries and ministries that would work together would meet in different groups.
Now, you might thought that Tinubu just came into office just within the space of 5 months, and the thing that he have done to Nigeria presently, even Buhari did not even do half of it within the space of 8 years. This man is about to borrow more. And none of you that are crying that, oh, Naira is already cold, oh, Naira note is finished. These are the cause. You cannot keep on borrowing and you want to stabilize your economy in the world and you want to make your currency to compete with other currency. You are a debtor, you can... I mean, if you know how you behave around people you are owing debt. If you the whole house rent, if you see your landlord they shake, you can't even challenge him anymore. If you challenge him too much, you'll say me you pack. So until maybe you have your own house, then you're not even a tenant, you're not owing anybody. That's when you have freedom of speech and whereby you can talk with boldness. Your country is into debt, and the current president is even borrowing and borrowing and borrowing the more. I don't even know how Nigeria is going to see themselves through this. Even if the next president come, if he's not even taken care of, then believe it or not, Nigeria will become the most poorest country in the entire world. Now, let's focus on what Neeson Wike said in none of this. But first of all, come across this video of Neeson Wike, how he was saying why Nigeria would borrow this and do this, all the money they borrow, they share it, and then even the contracts they award to contractors, they did not do it. Now, instead of them to focus on how, okay, this thing we give to you people, you have to fix it. You cannot just embezzle money and go free. You have to do this, you have to do that, you have to complete your contract. Now, they are not talking about that now. All right, guys, what do you guys think about these particular videos of your presidencies and their past administrations on how they have been borrowing and the money President Muhammadu Buhari? Remember, before President Muhammadu Buhari left office, within the space of 4 months, he spent 24 billion to build a private hospital for the president. 24 billion, the hospital. That money could have built each hospitals in the 36 states of Nigeria. But he spent it in just 4-room Aso Rock Hospital. Now, he also spent 14 billion to repaint Aso Rock. Aside the rest money that he has been embezzled, I'm just talking about that minute money that he took from office. I want you guys to understand that these people, these APC people, did not mean well for Nigeria. There's no how Tinubu will want to beat his chest and said, okay, for the past administrations that embezzle money, we're going to probe them, we're going to do this. He can't do it because they are his predecessor. And even as that, they're under the same political party. There is nothing he's going to do except just to fall down and continue from where they stop. And if the head is corrupt, the whole body is damaged. Even in the Senate, on the other hand, all of them are thinking on how to buy 3 convoy, buy 3 Land Cruiser, buy more Prado Jeep. Anyway, that will be on our next video. So I just want to hear from you guys. What do you guys think about these whole issues? I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section. And please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy watching. And for those that are coming across our video for the first time, please follow or subscribe, depends on where you're watching it from. If you do, please turn on the notification bell so that you wouldn't miss out any of our future posts. Until we meet again, for all our returning viewers, may God bless you. We love you. God love you more. Until we meet again, peace out.
Don't forget to subscribe to get notified. And as you they show your support, now say God bless you too.
Sense on the bed.
Plan B TV, Plan B TV, Plan B TV. Oh, Plan B TV, Plan B TV, Plan B TV, Plan B TV.